Well, Elliott Hulse, thanks for being here. We got a real treat, with between YouTube with your strength camp and Elliott Hulse, your personal page. I was looking this morning, was it 1.6 million on strength camp and about 600,000 on your Elliott Hulse page. So you've been able to take your heart and influence millions and millions of people's lives. And I'm sure every single person that's listening to this, whether they know of you or not, is something what everyone wants. And so I'm really appreciative for you being here right now. And just so you know,
My
you've also
pleasure.
been an influence in my life as well. And so it's
It's
fun
great to
to be
hear.
able to chat.
That's great to hear, and it sounds like you're doing some pretty cool things yourself.
Yeah, man, you're a big inspiration, and I'm looking forward to diving in. And I just thought it'd be cool to kind of kick off in the last couple weeks, month. What is something that's been really fascinating for you? Something that you've been learning or processing or have learned, where your awareness has kind of been focused on.
That's a good question. That's a fun question. For those of you who don't know, I've been a professional strongman. I mean, I played college football. I went into strength and conditioning as a profession, and then I became a professional strongman. I started filming workouts and answering questions on YouTube. So that has been my life up until very recently. And some of the things I find myself doing now are painting, and I'm
Wow.
learning how to play the guitar.
Oh, cool.
So those are some fun things that are on the horizon for me.
That's awesome. What type of music do you like?
Well, I like all kinds of music. My favorite music to listen to is reggae. But a friend of mine, he's a professional guitar player, a great musician. One day shows up at the gym with a beautiful acoustic guitar for me,
Okay, cool.
and I've never played guitar before in my life. I played saxophone in middle school, and that's about it. And as soon as he knows I also like country music. So as soon as he hands it to me, he says, "You're gonna learn how to play some Zach Brown." And Zach Brown's my favorite country song band. So I'm learning chords. So apparently, you got to get your fingers real trained. I know how to train my body, but training the fingers, get these little calluses that you got to like dig in on those strings with and then strum the guitar. So I'm having fun getting my fingers real callousy. I've got I've got the E chord, the B7 chord, and the A chord down. It's only been a week.
That's awesome. So speaking of reggae, right? So I'm sure you've seen the Bob Marley movie, or he's a big inspiration. And one thing
Hmm.
that fascinates me about you is, so right, Bob Marley comes from the slums in Jamaica, moves out to Trenchtown, and unbe everything in his physical world, all his physical senses indicated that his vision was impossible. There was no way, if you used the conscious mind and logic and looked at things rationally and used his eyes and his ears and looked around at everyone around them. But he didn't listen to his physical senses. He had this vision within himself, and he was able to bring his level of awareness above the physical plane to create this thing that influenced billion. I think he's the best-selling T-shirt ever in the history of the world.
I
And
believe it.
and he's been, obviously, sounds like a big inspiration for you, a big inspiration for me. And one thing that fascinated me and I wanted to ask you about, because you're interesting to me, because on first glance people probably see you on YouTube and they say, "Oh, this stupid meathead," right? But when you actually get to know you, you have this very keen level of awareness that's beyond the physical plane. And I was looking at, it was a while ago, one of your Instagram posts was your original goals when you were about my age, 23, 24.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to talk to me about that kind of process, as I explained with Bob, in your own right, where you created this thing that's influenced millions of lives and built a business off of something that is connected to your soul. And the process of moving your awareness beyond the physical plane to create something, and kind of your process throughout your life, your career in doing so.
Hmm. Well, you got to be a little crazy to begin with, meaning that, society has us set up to believe and to think and to behave in a certain way. And to get what most people aren't getting, you got to do what most people aren't doing. And that's usually pretty crazy, you know. So the two virtues that I say are probably the most important in the golden age, and of course Bob Marley, he represented and expressed this quite a bit, are creativity and courage. And they're cyclical because to have creativity means that you've got to be courageous. Creative people are people who are creating out of thin air, meaning creativity is about combining things and creating things that have never been created before. So being able to see something that's not there, to envision a future for yourself that's not there, to envision a project coming into fruition that's not there, being able to look and, how they say, instead of asking why, ask why not. Like, why couldn't this happen? Why can't we get to the moon? Being creative in your thoughts first. The minute an idea comes to most people, a creative thought comes to them, I'm going to become a guitar player. That's the weirdest thing ever, because I was a football player, I was a meathead, I'm a strong man. And I'm known that way, and I'm not very there I go judging myself. I've never given myself the opportunity to learn how to use my fingers to play instruments and things like that. You know what I mean? I've never been artistic of sorts. I've always been kind of blunt and straight ahead. Where art is kind of a little bit more how it would be more, instead of prickles, goo. That's how Alan Watts would say it. It's less prickly, it's more gooey. It's more flowing. So my point is that most people, when an aspiration comes, or they're inspired to something, or a creative idea comes to them, instead of sticking with it and thinking about how they can make it happen and believing that the thought was put there for a reason. There's a reason why you thought that, because you're meant to make it a reality. Most people begin thinking about all the reasons why they can't. Well, I never learned music as a kid, and it's really hard to learn music. Or, all the excuses just pile right on top of it. So creativity is also, like I said, courage, because you've got to be courageous enough to allow the creative seed to germinate. Most people, the minute a creative idea comes into their mind, they allow all the reasons why not to bombard them, and they don't have enough courage to say, forget that. I'm going to make this thing happen. You see? So to answer your question, it's really, these are inherent qualities, but we're just not giving ourselves the permission to be creative, be a little crazy, think outside the box, see things before they're actually here. You see, Bob Marley's had a vision. See them. You've got to see them. You not only just see them, you've got to feel it. You got to embody it. You got to be excited about it. That's what passion is. Passion happens in your heart. Passion happens in your body, not in your head. It comes in through your head, but you've got to own it physically. You've got to get excited about it. You've got to be enthusiastic about the thing, right? And then, again, you got to be crazy enough to say, I'm going to do it. I don't care what happens. I'm going to make this thing happen. And that often means you've got to be willing to go through the hardships associated with bringing something into manifestation. Most people are not willing to suffer a little bit. They want everything to happen comfortably, right? So I'm going to learn to play the guitar. Well, guess what? I just discovered my fingers are going to hurt. My fingers are sore. It's the weirdest thing. I'm used to having sore quads and glutes and chest, but I'm like, man, my fingers, they feel like they're going to bleed. But I get it, because it's like, that's the pain of giving birth. And everything that you want, everything that you're going to create, anything good that's going to come out of you is going to require pain. So just gear up for it.
You got me excited, even more excited right now. And I wanted you to talk about your own process and the things that you learn, right? How do you, when you're going through the challenges, how did you personally, and how do you recommend when you have this vision, right? Or even you've created something great, but you have your next goal. And then your physical senses want to trick you, your mind, or you run into challenges. How do you prime yourself, and how have you primed yourself? Or what you like to use is hypnotize yourself, right? What are ways that you've done that successfully in hypnotism, in priming yourself, and what are ways you recommend?
Oh, well, yeah, you know what? You're being hypnotized whether you do it for yourself or not. You're being brainwashed. Do you go to school? Have you been to school? Yes, you've been brainwashed. Have you watched TV? You're being brainwashed. Do you live in society? Have you seen advertising? Do you live with parents? Have you been with friends? You're being brainwashed. You're constantly being brainwashed. So people are so afraid to be manipulated and brainwashed, but what they don't realize is that they're a byproduct of a world manipulation, a world brainwash, a worldwide story that we've all adopted. All of our lifestyles are a byproduct of a story we've been fed that we chose to believe. We've been bullshitted into it, and we just go and we believe that that's the only way. But you can tell yourself a different story. Did you know that? Did you know that you can choose the story? And one of the best ways to, and advertisers know this, one of the best ways to influence the mind in order to make that story physically real, in order to embed it into your unconscious, to get it down into your peripheral nervous system, to embody it, you need repetition. You need intensity, and you need repetition. So, post 9/11, we live in a post 9/11 world. We've been embedded with, first of all, the impact of the airplanes going into the buildings, right? I mean, that's an impactful shock to the nervous system. Just to see that. I lived in New York at the time. To see that is like, so immediately, body is affected. The body has to be stimulated for anything to really be embodied, to be manifested. And repetition, terror alert, terror, fear. They're constantly reminding us, fear, fear, fear. Be fearful. Uh-oh, boogeyman, next boogeyman, the guy that's going to come and get you. So they know that if you're going to brainwash people, you've got to impact them with a tremendous shock to the nervous system and then keep reminding them. Well, we can do the same thing to ourselves by choosing a very resourceful and good feeling about an idea, right? Rather than fear, we could choose one that feels good, right? I'm so happy and grateful now that I am limitless. I am so happy and grateful now that I am unconditional self-love. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm faith in action. So what I'm doing here is I'm affirming, and you can consistently affirm positive, uplifting, empowering ideas. You can choose affirmations. Do you see what I'm saying? And brainwash yourself with them. In fact, I just got this book. By the way, I've gotten rid of about 90% of my books, and I'm just holding on to things that are very applicable. This is I Am Affirmation.
Who's it by?
By Peter Mount Shasta.
Okay. And
this book has the most beautiful affirmations that I've ever read in a book. The only book that tops it with regard to an affirmation is The Master Key System. I forget the name of the author, but I taught my children the affirmation when they were very young, and they still remember it, which is, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And to say it is not enough. You've got to embody it. So I make them go, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. The body has to be physically involved. You have to embody. You have to breathe the affirmation in. So I would say that get a book like this that's loaded with beautiful affirmations. I am the living light. I am love. I am one with all. Right? As opposed to I am scared. I am fearful. I am sick. I am needing more medication. I am ill. You see, these are the things that we're really telling ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good look. I don't have enough money. Well, you can keep telling yourself that, and that's what you're going to get. Or you can choose a different story and feed yourself that.
So talk to me about, you have obviously such a keen understanding of the body and nervous system, given how much time you've spent in your work that you've done for so long. So talk to me. I'm really fascinated about the unconscious mind and the nervous system as a machine that's programmed to behave in a certain way. And what are ways that you shock and stimulate your nervous system, right? People say, well, affirmations don't work. Is that because people aren't getting emotionally involved with it?
Yes, that has everything to do with it. Exercise, it's got to be embodied. You have to embody the thing. Here's a beautiful quote I read the other day. Here, this is by Godfrey Ray King. The feeling side of human nature is the feminine activity of consciousness within every individual, right? So feeling is feminine, it's the feminine aspect. The thought, thinking, is the masculine activity of the mind. A thought never becomes dynamic in your outer life until it passes through the feeling of the body. The feeling condenses upon the thought pattern, the atomic substance of the outer activity of life. In thus passing through the feeling body, the thought becomes clothed and thereafter exists as a separate living thing outside of the individual mind, out of the individual's mind. It literally means that affirmations aren't working for people because they're not enthusiastic about it. They're just saying it. I am whole, perfect, strong. They're going about it in a very mundane way because that's how they've lived most of their lives. People aren't motivated, they're not excited, they're not enthusiastic, they're not passionate. So they do these things, and Ralph Waldo Emerson says that essentially the way you do, man, my quotes are a little off today. It's basically the way you do the thing. The way you do it is more important than what you do, right? Because we can have two people lift a barbell, and one of them just going like, all right, in a very lackluster way and get nothing out of it. And you get another person who's ripping it off the ground and getting really excited about it and pumping their fists in the air. They're doing the same thing. They can both be saying the same affirmation. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Or I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful. You see, immediately your energy changes. You smile. Right? That's manifestation. Manifestation is very physical. It doesn't happen in the clouds. Most people are living in the fucking clouds. Well, you know what the clouds do? They float away. There's nothing there. It's air. They're living up in their heads. So if affirmations aren't working for you, it's because you don't know how to use them. But they are working. You're just not choosing them consciously, right? Because that's an affirmation. Affirmations don't work. Well, congratulations. Thank you for making that a reality for yourself, and they'll continue to be a reality for yourself.
I'm laughing.
How about I am faith in action?
I am faith in action. I like that. And I'm laughing too because I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do, I'm like, woo! And then I have my state. I recognize the eternal source of all riches, which never fails. And I feel so weird, or not weird. I've just no one else does it, and so it's really funny and it's really cool to someone that, you're a role model to me, and for numerous reasons. The impact you've had, the way you carry yourself, your family life, right? With Colleen that you've been together with for so long. And I admire the fact that you built all these things out and now you're saying, no, I kind of feel called somewhere else right now. You're not moving forward out of, well, fear if I lose this, if I don't put as much energy into it, where most people would do anything to have what you've created over the course of your life. So it's exciting because I do the same things. And, I wanted to ask you, when you were starting, right, talk to me about some of the challenges that you faced. Waking up in the morning and you cooked what, and Colleen got mad at you. Why was she frustrated?
Oh, those are old stories. That's funny. I think you're probably talking about, I've always been an early riser. There's just something powerful about rising early, and what I've been doing lately is walking along the bay. I live near Tampa Bay, and watching the sunrise right over the bay. Man, it's just, there is something very magical and powerful about being up at that time of the day and being there with the sun as it greets us for a new day, a new opportunity to be born again, So what you're talking about is me getting up early. Years ago, when Colleen was, man, we probably just had we definitely had 2 children at the time. We have 4 now. So the girls were very small, probably, less than a year or 2 old. And I'd get up in the morning, and a part of my commitment is I've got to eat healthy food. And there are times where, like, for breakfast, I don't eat cereal. I'm making salmon. I'm making fish. So it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm using coconut oil and frying fish in the kitchen. And she's like, "Oh my God!" She was probably pregnant. That's what it was.
Yeah, she was pregnant.
I had to smell. Oh, I gotta smell fish in the morning because of my crazy husband. So yeah.
And talk to me about the struggles of having this vision and launching it off the ground, right? Like, I think you said, well, your first goal was $100,000 a year, or one of the first goals that you wrote out and you posted online that you said, I found this when I was going through my stuff, right? Talk to me about the person that has this goal and they know what they want, they have their vision, they're putting in the work, they're getting emotionally involved with the idea, right? And talk to me about the hero's journey of taking the step to create what you want to create and the challenges that you faced, Elliott, through that process. The lag time between the vision that you have and the gestation and incubation period for the material realization of it.
Oh. Well, all of life is the gestation period. I don't think we ever get there. You know what I mean? And when we think in terms of evolving or growing or, as you're describing, achieving success, and this is where I was, and I can only describe, where I was and where I am now, it's always external. I'm going to get there and I can see the house, I can see the car, I can see the wife, and it's always out there. And what I've experienced over the past several years, of course, I've achieved a lot of those things out there, which has given me more time and freedom to do other things. It's becoming more of a process of becoming who I really am in here. It's a unlayering process. It's a removing of, like I told you, I just got rid of 90% of my books. Now it's a process of removing things. And the early part of trying to manifest physically came from a lot of fear. I used fear, and the thing is, like, I talked about courage and creativity. Well, I created and I was courage with fear barking at my back door, chomping at me. So a lot of people let fear paralyze them. I let fear mobilize me. So I'm very grateful for the fear that I was able to mobilize in myself to get me going. But and that brings a lot of struggle. When you're running from a dog because you're fearing for your life, I'm running from, I was $90,000 in debt. I'm running from, yeah, we were.
Oh, I didn't know you were in debt.
Deep debt, yeah, we were in deep debt. Went out back then. I had children, and had no job, and it was challenging. And I knew that in order to, one of the things people don't realize also too is that physical manifestation or physical success is dependent on your spiritual growth. And spiritual growth is 100% dependent on challenge. There's a beautiful quote by Abdul Baha, I wish I could remember it, but essentially he talks in terms of how gold is to be purified in fire, right? I mean, if you're going to purify gold, or if you're going to create a sword, right? It's got to be put in that fire, and it's got to be banged and turned over, and so all the heat and all the pounding is to purify, is to sharpen, is to make more whole the individual or the piece of gold or the sword. So I kind of expected these things, and in fact, I kind of put myself in those circumstances. Like, who the hell has no job and decides to have 4 children and get $90,000 in debt? Wow. I want my sword to be sharp as hell. I'm going to go and do the craziest things. And I knew I was going to make it happen because I was relentless. I had fear. I told kids always often ask me, like, what do I do to motivate myself? I say, move out of your parents' house and go live in the street. You're going to be scared as fuck. Guess what you're going to do when you're scared? You'll figure it out. Right? So, they think we've been taught that it's irresponsible to take on those types of responsibilities. Who does that? That's not the right way. You need a foundation first. Well, I said, fuck a foundation. I'm going to jump off the cliff and learn how to fly on my way down. Right? So all the challenges that are associated with building my physical world, I wanted them. You see what I'm saying? I wanted those challenges. They weren't just like par for the course. People look at it like, well, there are going to be some challenges. I was going, bring them on. Here come the challenges. Let's go. Beat me up. And so that was the fuel and the energy by which I made my way through my early adulthood. I'm 37 now, so I'm moving into middle adulthood, midlife. The first part of life is about triumph. The middle part is about transformation. And the third part is about mentorship. It's about eldership. I was picking up my sword. I was going hard. I was getting beat up, knocked down, doing it again relentlessly. During the transition phase of my life, midlife, it's a fascinating new journey because the sword I actually had to put down, and I actually have to get in touch with, like Mount Shasta said, the feeling in my body, the feelings in my heart, the sensations, love. Instead of using fear to motivate me, I'm learning how to use love to motivate me.
And when you welcomed and embraced the challenges, and while you faced the challenges, you knew that they were necessary for you to become who you knew you could be in your heart of hearts, the vision that you had. So you said, I cannot create this thing I want to create unless I go here. So I welcome this so I can become who I'm actually meant to be. That was your process, right?
Absolutely. It's 100% about who you're becoming. It's never about what you get out there. It's never about the worldly success. It's never about the money. It's never about the cars. It's always about you. Who are you becoming? Because you're going to attract to you exactly what you are. If you're weak, well, look around. You're going to see a lot of weakness. If you're fearful, look around, you're going to see a lot of fear, however that shows up for you. It's the law of attraction.
I think we probably like one of my favorite quotes is the Henry David Thoreau quote. You don't get, the point of a goal isn't what you get, but who you become. And I think it sounds like we like Emerson's and the Thoreaus, but I think another group that I imagine, and I could be wrong, that you really connect to is indigenous cultures. I think your father was from Belize. Talk to me about the things that you've learned in becoming a man, the strongest version of yourself, that inspire you and that you've learned from indigenous cultures, maybe even your father's background and his family's growing up. What does that interest you? Am I right or wrong on that?
Interestingly, my younger brother, just got back from Canada, where he went up and participated as a facilitator, as a elder now, in the Native American Sundance, which he did when he was a youth, which is a rite of passage for young men in Native American culture, where I'll just give you a brief example of what they do. We talk about challenges, physical challenges for our growth. Well, our ancestors understood that. That's why there were rites of passage. That's why there was initiation, particularly for young men, because we're never really physically initiated into adulthood, same way girls are with the marking of their menstruation cycle. He, during his initiation years, decided he was mentored by a Native American shaman, you could say, and went up four years in a row. And a part of the initiation is to have your flesh pierced, so to pick up your skin here on your chest on both sides and stick a stick through it, sharp thing, and then tie it to a tree. And after 4 days of fasting, now he's dancing with the drum beat, right? And they're chanting and they're drumming, and the initiation comes about when you have the courage and you're filled that much with the spirit that you pull yourself away from the tree and it pops your skin. And then that blood, as that blood runs down into the dirt, it's symbolic of your humility, your groundedness, your humanness. Interesting that that word humility and human, even humor, has the root word humus, which means earth, which means dirt. You know, the soil is humus. So it's a matter of even humiliation, humility, to give your blood in that particular way, in the same way that a young lady gives her blood. You know, so it's a way to bring us into accordance with the earth, with Mother Nature, in the same way. So interesting. He did that for 4 years in high school. I didn't. I was playing college football at the time. I was banging heads instead. And he just came back yesterday from supporting new young men on their path in the indigenous way, the traditional way of the Native Americans. So to say that my heart is there and to say that my DNA is there would be accurate. But I was born in Brooklyn, New York, raised on Long Island, you know, just like most of us in society, you know, Babylon, if you want to call it like the Rastas, Babylon. I was born in Babylon. So, but as I'm reconnecting with parts of myself and having dreams and meditating more, I find myself moving closer and closer to many of the shamanic practices of my ancestors. So bringing music back into healing. Music is very healing, and our ancestors knew that. Shamanic journeying has a lot of drum beats associated with it, chanting associated with it. I have been offering, we've had 2 already, active meditation workshops in Florida. Next year I plan on doing 5 of them, and we'll be going overseas. Actually, I'll be in, you're in the UK, huh?
No, I'm in San Diego.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be in, I'm for sure doing one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, one in Europe. I'll probably do one in Central America.
When is that?
My active meditation workshops are very much like shamanic journeys, the way our ancestors do it. Today, everybody's going to ayahuasca because it's easy. You take a drink and woo, you go. But what our ancestors did was they moved and they chanted and they made sounds and chanted and shook their bodies and played drums and see, and connected with the elements. So active meditation is very physical. There's a lot of heavy breathing. There's catharsis, meaning let out the screams, let out the yells. You know, there was a group of young men that came to my gym yesterday for open gym, where, you know, young men come from all over the world to come visit my gym. And the one thing that he said he wanted to do when he was there was to yell. He was lifting a bar over his head. I just wanted to get a barbell and go, ah! He can't do that. He can't do that at home. He can't do that at the gym.
At 24-hour fitness.
Camp and you're hanging out with Elliott Hulse, you yell, you scream, you pound your chest. All these things are ways to get in touch with and to access levels of consciousness that have been suppressed. And that's what our ancestors knew. And we're very much warriors in our blood.
So talk to me about
exercise.
A few of the practices that are either everyday or pretty constant practices that put you in the state of consciousness that you are moving more and more towards and that you like to embody. Are there certain habits, practices, rituals, or whatever you like to call them that you find yourself, whether it's meditation, what are some of the other ones? I'm sure it's an everyday thing for you. What are some of these other practices that embody the consciousness that you want to embody?
Well, everything that we do is an exercise. Everything that we do. I mean, you could even look at how the Zen culture was established in Japan, where even down to the way they do a tea party, right? You know, you ever hear that, you know, the Japanese tea party, the way they It can take hours for them to set up tea and to make a cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? That becomes a meditation. Osho talks about how washing dishes can become a meditation. You see, so mindfulness can be carried with you 24 hours a day. But just like with, training in the gym, it's always resourceful to create a space of time, dedicate, create boundaries for yourself to have a space of time every day where you can do something deliberate. I have a few of them. I dedicate my life. I dedicate my life to this, right? What better thing to do than to dedicate your life to becoming the strongest version of yourself? So when I wake up in the morning, like I was saying before, I walk. I mean, if you want an enlightened state of consciousness, go walk by the beach and watch the sunrise. You live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You go watch the sunset.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Vancouver next week. I'm watching the sunset every day.
Yeah, you're going to be with my boy Daniel. He's one of my best friends.
No doubt. Well, maybe Daniel and I will watch the sunset together, because that's something our ancestors knew. The sun gazers, right? The Egyptians, they brought us our modern religion of the sun, right? Jesus is the sun. Well, S-U-N-S-O-N, interesting. But the way the sun rises and the way the sun sets is hypnotizing, it's stimulating, it's invigorating, it's nourishing. Just watch the sun, you see? So that's one. Another one is a day doesn't go by or I don't do my movement meditation, like Tai Chi, movement, coupled with breathing. All right. I spend half an hour every day doing that, because you can't tell, I have a lot of energy. So to bring it's a state of consciousness. Instantly I changed. I did one of them. I do it for 30 minutes straight, and I walk away like I just took a nervous system bath.
You just do the same thing over and over like that for 30 minutes?
Yeah. Inhale on the way up. Exhale on the way down. Set a little clock, set a little timer, goes off in 30 minutes, and I call that my mental bath. I'm giving my whole nervous system a bath. You can visualize while you're doing it. Sometimes I visualize when I'm coming up this way that almost like air or oxygen or energy is coming down through. I think of it more in terms of celestial energy or God energy, moving down through my body and helping raise up flames. All right, this is what I do with my brain. So I've got God energy being downloaded through my body and raising up violet flames around me. I'm raising up the flames, and then as I come this way, I'm blowing the steam, blowing the smoke back up. So that's one visualization. I'm bringing down the God energy and rising the flames. The flames come down and the steam goes up. So that's one of my meditations. So there's that. Exercise is meditation. I do yoga every day. Anytime you're coupling movement with breath and you're mindful about your movement and your breath, you're meditating, you're putting yourself into an altered state of consciousness. Active meditation in its various forms is something that I engage in quite regularly. So these are all ways to tap into the formless, to tap into the eternal, to tap into the stronger you that is underneath all the layers of neurosis and conditioning.
Can I ask you, what is your thoughts on caffeine? Do you use it regularly when you exercise? What do you think about it?
Well, when I was running with that fear and triumphing, I think that's a better way to call it, during my triumphant rise, I was drinking caffeine like it was going out of style, man. First thing in the morning, black coffee. Just pounding. We started making Cuban coffees, which are super strong, and just pounding them. So, yeah, I did that until I burnt my adrenals out.
Happened to me recently.
Out, and I had to take a full year of a nap I went to sleep. I laid in my that's my hammock back there.
Okay.
So I triumphed, abused my body, abused my adrenals, and then I recovered. I'm still recovering a little bit. Today, I use caffeine sparingly. I have maybe half a cup in the morning, right when I first get up. I sip it before I go on my walk, and that's it. It's gone for the day.
Cool. I love it. I was just curious because I was the same, and I realized that I was so dependent on an outside energy source in order to go to the gym, to run sprints. Like I just couldn't. And so I was just curious with someone. I admire your understanding and grounding of your own energy. So I was just curious about your experience with it. When you're listening to our conversation, in conclusion, where does your energy lead you to speak from? I never asked someone like that before, but
well, restate it. I'm not really sure what you're saying.
In our conversation, right, that we've been having in our energy exchange, where does your energy lead you to speak from?
Oh, well, it depends on the day. It depends on the circumstance. It depends on how much I slept. Right. Today I'm speaking from my solar plexus. Today I'm speaking from not my belly, not deep into my balls. If I was, I'd be talking a lot slower, and my voice would be deeper, and I'd probably be more thoughtful, and I'd take more time in between statements, and I'd probably be more still, right? If I was speaking from my groundedness, from my belly, from my balls. If I was speaking from my head, I'd probably be all up here and like thinking a lot and like kind of schizoid in my... But today I got a lot of solar plexus energy, for whatever reason. So I'm coming right from my power, so I've got a lot of energy, if you can't tell. And so that's... When you ask that question, we can become very metaphysical, but it's also very physical. I often say that the body is the mind. Well, the body is literally your mind. If you're going to ask me where I'm speaking from, I could state a character virtue. I could state an emotion, which is physical anyway. I could state a feeling. Or if you're very conscious of your body, which we all really, it's of great benefit to be conscious of your body because you express through your body. Then be conscious of what you're holding tight, what's relaxed, what's undercharged, and what's overcharged in your body. And right now, I got a lot of solar plexus energy.
I like that, noticing what's tight and what's not, what's undercharged and what's overcharged. In conclusion, right, I'd say what someone listening to this can, or what I personally, I'll speak from my own experience, what I get out of this is the necessity to embrace the challenges that I'm facing, to grow, that I'm welcoming in order to embody the person that I want to be and the way that I desire to live. To not say, oh shit, here's a challenge. Just to say, this is a natural process if I want to become this type of person. And coupled with that, how essential it is for me to embody and stimulate my nervous system in the consciousness that I want to bring forth and who I want to be, the desires that I have from that energy, wholeheartedly embodying that. And I'm also going to begin the practice of getting my body cycles in alignment with the sun rising and setting. I want to practice that as well. And the necessity of courage is what I really take. And you just have such a keen understanding of energy and getting in touch with your feelings, which is ironic because you're this big, huge, strong guy. And that's really what I take away, is keep asking myself, how do I feel? Where am I tight? Moving forward, okay, I'm facing this challenge and I welcome it and I embody it and I bring it on so I can become who I want to be. How does that sound to you?
Man, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. That's quite a bit of good stuff right there, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Hey, look, brother, we're all doing this together. We're ascending right now. We're living in the golden age. They say that 2012 was the end of the world. But what they forgot to say is that it's the beginning of a new one. So yes, I agree. It was the end of an old paradigm, and we're watching it crumble before our eyes. All of the so-called tragedies that we see are the death pangs, the death moans of a dying consciousness. And we are living in the time where in the Bible it's described as the harvesting. This is the harvesting right now, as described in Revelations, I believe. And it is a ascension of consciousness. And there are those of us who are willing to brave that challenge, to grow stronger, to ascend, to become more loving, to become more open, to become more limitless. And there are those who still choose to live in fear. And it shows up in the foods we choose to put into our bodies. It shows up in the thoughts we choose to harbor or to entertain. It shows up in the activity, the gift that we give to the world. What I'm saying is that you're a part of this because you're spreading good vibes. In your way, you're doing what I'm doing. We're brothers in this. We're all ascending, and when you ascend, you can't help but to support the ascension of other people by you becoming the strongest version of yourself and doing nothing else besides the fact that you're doing podcasts and writing books and doing all these incredible things. Your mere ascension, your mere growth supports the growth of thousands of others. It's even said that you, by healing, heal 7 generations before you and 7 generations into your future. So by you healing, you're healing the ills of and the sins of your ancestors. Angelus Arian says that behind each of us, on our right side, there's our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers and our great-great-grandfathers standing there. And on our left side are our great-grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers, great-grandmothers. And they're talking to each other and they're collaborating and they're saying to themselves, will this be the one? Will he be the one? Will Jake be the one that rights all the wrongs, that supports all of us in our growth, that does the right thing, that grows stronger, that it becomes the enlightened one. That's the one that carries forth the good name. Do you see? So they're waiting. Our ancestors are waiting for us to do this thing. And if we don't do it, Emerson says God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. Then they'll just move on to your brother or to your grandchild. But they're going to wait until we get our shit together. There's a lot of healing being done right now. I call it holing instead.
Holing, I like that. Say that quote one more time. It was God does not what? The Emerson quote?
God will not have his work made manifest by cowards.
I want to end right there. God does not have his work made manifest by cowards.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Elliott. Everyone is gonna have all your notes and can link up when they're out in Florida to attend your strength camp. I'll be looking forward to coming when you're on the West Coast with my girlfriend to your active meditation. Do you have a date on that or anything like that?
Nah, it'll be 2017 though, so
all
stay
right,
tuned.
cool. I'm excited, man.
You got it, brother. Well, thank you.
Yeah, man, thanks. It was really nice to meet you. I appreciate your time.
Have a good day, bro.
All right, man, you too. Peace.